Hello everyone, Grandpa Ron here again. Hope you're all having a great day. Today we're going to get back into our very basic Bible study. We're looking at the book of Joshua, which is the account of the children of Israel taking over the Promised Land. Remember, we've already seen that they moved up to the east bank of the Jordan River and they've taken possession of the land there. And several of the tribes got permission from Moses to settle that land. But the agreement was that they would travel across the Jordan to help their brother tribes to take over the remainder of the Promised Land. So now they have to contend with the Jordan River. At the time they arrived there, this is the flood season. So the river would have been wide and dangerous. Today I've seen pictures of the river. It doesn't look so intimidating, but back then it was a real obstacle to have to contend with. So let's see what God does to help them get across the Jordan River. We'll look at Joshua chapter 3, verse 1. Then Joshua rose early in the morning, and all the sons of Israel set out from Shittim and came to the Jordan, and they lodged there before they crossed. And it came about at the end of 3 days that the officers went through the midst of the camp. So they've been there a few days, they've camped, they're preparing to cross the river. Verse 3. And they commanded the people, saying, when you see the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God, with the Levitical priests carrying it, then you shall set out from your place and go after it. Now normally there were other people that carried the Ark of the Covenant, but this is going to be something special is going to happen. The priests themselves are carrying the Ark of the Covenant. Verse 4, however, there shall be between you and it a distance of about 2,000 cubits by measure. Do not come near it, that you may know the way by which you shall go, for you have not passed this way before. So that's about a half-mile distance. Remember, the children of Israel, put a little chart in here that shows how they were arranged, but you had tribes on both sides, front and rear of the ark, and the tabernacle as it moved. So they're supposed to keep some distance. They're going to remain spread out, but they're still within view of it so that they can guide their way. Verse 5, then Joshua said to the people, consecrate yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do wonders among you. That's clean yourself up, both spiritually and physically. Verse 6, and Joshua spoke to the priests, saying, take up the Ark of the Covenant and cross over ahead of the people. So they took up the Ark of the Covenant and went ahead of the people. Now the Lord said to Joshua, this day I will begin to exalt you in the sight of all Israel, that they may know that just as I have been with Moses, I will be with you. Now remember, God showed how great his presence with Moses was by performing all kinds of miracles. The comparison is going to be here, as we see in the next few verses, that God parted the Red Sea for Moses to escape the Egyptians. And now he's going to add credibility to Joshua to show that he is also with Joshua by stopping up the waters of the Jordan so the children of Israel can pass over it. So this is a means by which God shows the children of Israel that he is with Joshua. Verse 8, you shall moreover command the priests who are carrying the Ark of the Covenant, saying, when you come to the edge of the waters of the Jordan, you shall stand still in the Jordan. Then Joshua said to the sons of Israel, come here and hear the words of the Lord your God. So he's going to explain in advance what's going to happen. Again, another way shows that God is communicating with Joshua, similarly to the way he communicated with Moses. And Joshua said, By this you shall know that the living God is among you, and that he will assuredly dispossess from before you the Canaanite, the Hittite, the Hivite, the Perizzite, the Girgashite, the Amorite, and the Jebusite. God's going to push out all these people, and he's going to deal especially harshly with them, because these Canaanite tribes were idolatrous, depraved in their worship to the point of child sacrifice even. And God is going to want the children of Israel to purge the land of these people. Otherwise, inevitably there'll be a contaminant to the children of Israel. Verse 11, Behold, the ark of the covenant of the Lord of all the earth is crossing over ahead of you into the Jordan. Now then, take for yourselves 12 men from the tribes of Israel, 1 man from each tribe. So these men are going to have a special purpose later on. Verse 13, And it shall come about when the soles of the feet of the priests who carry the ark of the Lord of all the earth, shall rest in the waters of the waters of the Jordan shall be cut off, and the waters which are flowing down from above shall stand in one heap. So when God parted the Red Sea, there was this huge gap that these millions of Israelis could pass through, and the water stood up on both sides of them. Some great distance between the two heaps of water. Here we're going to have one heap because it's a river, not the sea. Verse 14, So it came about when the people set out from their tents to cross the Jordan with the priests carrying the ark of the covenant before the people, and when those who carried the ark came into the Jordan, and the feet of the priests carrying the ark were dipped in the edge of the water, for the Jordan overflows its banks in all the days of harvest, that the waters which were flowing down from above stood and rose up in one heap, a great distance away at Adam, the city that is beside Zarethan. And those who were flowing down toward the sea of Arabah, the salt sea, were completely cut off, so the people crossed opposite Jericho. What a great miracle for the children of Israel to see. It must have been a great boost in their confidence in Joshua and the Lord God. Verse 17, And the priests who carried the ark of the covenant of the Lord stood firm on dry ground in the middle of the Jordan, while all Israel crossed on dry ground until all the nation had finished crossing the Jordan. So they all got across. Let's go ahead and look at chapter 4. Now it came about, when all the nation had finished crossing the Jordan, that the Lord spoke to Joshua, saying, Take for yourselves 12 men from the people, 1 man from each tribe, and command them, saying, Take up for yourselves 12 stones from here out of the middle of the Jordan, from the place where the priest's feet are standing firm, and carry them over with you, and lay them down in the lodging place where you will lodge tonight. So these are the 12 men previously mentioned, and they're going to collect stones from out of the Jordan River and take them to where they're going to spend the night. Verse 4. So Joshua called the 12 men whom he had appointed from the sons of Israel, 1 man from each tribe. And Joshua said to them, Cross again to the ark of the Lord your God into the middle of the Jordan, and each of you take up a stone on his shoulder, according to the number of the tribes of the sons of Israel. Let this be a sign among you, so that when your children ask later, saying, What do these stones mean to you? Then you shall say to them, Because the waters of the Jordan were cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. When it crossed the Jordan, the waters of the Lord were cut off. So these stones shall become a memorial to the sons of Israel forever. So we're going to do something so that future generations can remember this. And as a side note, just like we've read in other chapters, God expects these fathers to relate to their children the greatness of God, God's laws, God's compassion, God's help and strength to them. And here is a visible monument that they can point to when they're dealing with their children. Verse 8, and thus the sons of Israel did as Joshua commanded, and took up 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, just as the Lord spoke to Joshua, according to the number of the tribes of the sons of Israel. And they carried them over with them to the lodging place and put them down there. So they are being obedient to what Joshua is commanding them. Then Joshua set up 12 stones in the middle of the Jordan at the place where the feet of the priests who carried the Ark of the Covenant were standing, and they are here to this day. So you've basically got two monuments. You've got one all the way across on the west side of the Jordan, and one in the middle of the Jordan itself. Verse 10, for the priests who carried the ark were standing in the middle of the Jordan until everything was completed that the Lord had commanded Joshua to speak to the people, according to all that Moses had commanded Joshua. And the people hurried and crossed. And it came about when all the people had finished crossing that the ark of the Lord and the priests crossed before the people. Now we have in verse 12 a little flashback, going to elaborate on the crossing. And the sons of Reuben and the sons of Gad and the half-tribe of Manasseh crossed over in battle array before the sons of Israel, just as Moses had spoken to them. About 40,000 equipped for war, crossing for battle before the Lord in the desert plains of Jericho. So these warriors actually crossed first before everyone else did. And a note in my Bible points out that this 40,000 is only about half of the fighting men that these tribes had. But remember, their families are going to stay on the east side, and so they need some protection over there as well. But this is a huge number, 40,000. Verse 14, on that day the Lord exalted Joshua in the sight of all Israel, so that they revered him just as they had revered Moses all the days of his life. So this miracle has accomplished its purpose. It's to show God's greatness, but it's to elevate Joshua in the eyes of the people he's going to be leading, so that they will have confidence in him and confidence in the fact that the Lord is with him. Verse 15, now the Lord said to Joshua, command the priests who carry the ark of the testimony that they come up from the Jordan. So Joshua commanded the priests, saying, come up from the Jordan. So the priests are the last ones to come out of the water. And it came about when the priests who carried the ark of the covenant of the Lord had come up from the middle of the Jordan, and the soles of the priests' feet were lifted up to dry ground, that the waters of the Jordan returned to their place and went over all its banks as before. Again, to reemphasize the miraculous aspect of this. Verse 19, now the people came up from the Jordan on the 10th of the first month and camped at Gilgal on the eastern edge of Jericho. They're only about 1.25 miles from Jericho. And they're going to camp there, gather themselves up, and we're going to see some things happen in the next couple of chapters regarding Jericho. Verse 20, and those 12 stones which they had taken up from the Jordan, Joshua set up at Gilgal. And he said to the sons of Israel, when your children ask their fathers in time to come, saying, what are these stones? Then you shall inform your children, saying, Israel crossed the Jordan on dry ground. Repetition for emphasis. I want you to do this. Verse 23, for the Lord your God dried up the waters of the Jordan before you until you had crossed, just as the Lord your God had done to the Red Sea, which he dried up before us until we had crossed, that all the peoples of the earth may know that the hand of the Lord is mighty, so that you may fear the Lord your God forever. Now remember, when the spies had gone into the land in the previous chapter, Rahab had told them The people's hearts are melting away because they heard what happened when God led the children of Israel out of Egypt, how the Red Sea was parted, how the Egyptians were wiped out. And everybody's afraid here in Canaan. And now God is reinforcing that. Surely there were a lot of Canaanites who saw this happen, and you know they're running back to tell their relatives and kinsmen, the Lord has done it again. He has stopped the waters. The Israelites are across the sea. Their attack on us is imminent. So God has put the fear of the Lord into the hands of all the peoples of the earth. Even today, if we believe and trust in God's word, this should strike awe in our heart that God is able to do this. Amazing. Well, we're going to stop there today, and we'll continue next time in looking at what has to be done before they actually start conquering the Canaanites on the west bank of the Jordan. In the meantime, God bless.